Hello, everyone. All right, we'll see if anyone's going to show up for this one as a live one because I gave all of you 15 whole minutes. That's right, 15 whole minutes to prepare, right? And that's not probably a lot of time. What else do you have to be doing? It's almost 10 o'clock at night if you're on the East Coast. We know there are no other coasts. It's not like any of you live like in the middle of the nation and you're on just in time. We have to track you by just in time because that's how I remember that time zone is that's just in time. Um, it's not like you're on any other time zones or anything. We'll see if anyone jumps in real quick on this live stream here. And if not, well, whatever. It's cool. But today's topic is going to be finding the right solution in magic, in mysticism, for what it is that you're doing. And I really want to make this one apply to a lot of fields. So you're going to hear me repeat this a few times because with live streams, I have to repeat myself if someone comes in the middle. Otherwise, they won't have a clue as to what the hell is going on. Maybe I won't repeat myself. Maybe I don't need to repeat myself. I don't know. I'm not good at live streams yet. Give me time. I mastered radio. I'll master this. But we don't want to make this just, like what kind of professional magic should you get? Should you buy it from someone or things like that? Because while I do that for a living, I also spend an inordinate amount of time helping people learn magic and teaching it. And finding the right solution is like 90% of what I do, both in my business and in just day-to-day teaching. So the thing here is, let's look at some basic different ways of achieving a goal. We're going to go with one of my favorite standbys, which is the talisman. Talismans are like this. You wear them, you carry them. I mean, do I have to explain what a talisman is? Okay, I got to explain what a talisman is. Talisman has some kind of energy work, spell work, magic work, other forces done upon it to make it functional. This could be technically a talisman. In case anyone's wondering what I'm doing with my hands, I realize, see my hands sitting here going back and forth on something, obviously. But that could technically be a talisman of a sort. So, talismans are one of my favorite standbys. Another one is spell work directly, which is just to achieve a result. And then there is conjuration, or spirit keeping, or summoning, if you prefer, bringing forth a friendly or familiar spirit to help work with you to achieve a goal. You're going to hear those words a lot. And the reason for this is, if you're practicing magic and this is a concern, and the words aren't practice magic in it, in the sense of practicing like, hey, I'm trying to learn astral projection, I'm trying to get better senses, then you're practicing it as an art form to achieve something. That's very different from the idea of, you're practicing to get better at the basic methodologies like communicating with spirits or things like that. So there's a definite big difference in these things. And so when I say practice magic, I mean practicing it to achieve a result, because otherwise practice means practice. You want to get better at astral projection, you practice astral projection longer. Yeah, there are some tricks and tips. There are ways around it. You can do some spell work and things like that to make yourself better. But at the end of the day, hard work and effort are going to win out over anything anyone else does for you or anything else you do that is not related to that hard work. It's kind of like building muscles or getting a better lap time. No matter how many protein shakes you drink, no matter what vitamins you take in, you are only going to get stronger by lifting. You're only going to get faster by running. And that's it. These things can augment, but so get that out the way first. When I talk about practice, I mean practicing magic to achieve a result, practicing mysticism, energy work, things like that, to try to get something out of it. You're trying to make something happen. Talismans are a favorite. Of course, there's direct spell work, practicing magic, doing magic to achieve a result. And that's another really good method. Beyond that, working with spirits, things like that, that's bringing something forward as an outside power. I recommend this depending on the intensity of the spirit. If it's a named spirit, I don't recommend it unless you're either very skilled or very familiar with the systems that you're working with. Because these systems usually tend to have some kind of potholes or roadblocks or any number of other things that you're going to get yourself into that you might not necessarily get yourself back out of. That's the other thing I tend to do a lot in my job, is get people out of things they've gotten themselves into. Because, hey, someone's got to. So I don't recommend necessarily, and it's ironic because, you know, a good portion of my business is bringing spirits forward for people. I don't always recommend it. In fact, if you don't have any experience with it, I don't recommend it as the first thing you try to achieve a result. And then the last of these is an advanced form of that, which is what we call pact working. Now, pact working, I almost never recommend because it is a binding contract. I don't recommend you sign binding contracts with humans. We're tricky SOBs. We're dangerous. But I certainly don't recommend that you go out making 10, 20, or 30 pacts with other forces unless you know what you're getting into and unless it's worth it. And if it's worth it, then it's probably going to be something you're already kind of familiar with. So, you know, in my day-to-day, with the work that I do, with just people asking me questions at random, a lot of times I'm kind of there like, you know, what do you want from me? And what most people want is to know what they need. So, looking at this little list that I went through, here's what you need and when. Spells are good when you need it done now. That's it. You want it done. You don't care about having it done 20 or 30 times after. You don't need this to be something that you carry with you all the time. You've got one goal. You're firing one arrow. Especially in personal practice. Okay, especially if you're doing this yourself, learning to cast or learning to do energy work directly to achieve your result, way better than any other method because all that power is funneling straight to a target. But what if this is something you want, you know, reoccurring thing? Better luck, a better love life, better charisma, a nice shiny hammer to wear about your neck, or something like that. Well, then you're going to look for talismans. And if talismans are not your thing, then you're going to look at things like attunements, which I didn't mention in the list. How could I not mention attunements in the list? Because I'm an idiot. That's why. But you know what? I'm a helpful idiot. So attunements would be the next step down from talismans. Now, talismans, I explained this to someone once, that a spell is firing an arrow at a target. A talisman is an automatic arrow firing machine that tends to autocorrect, but isn't as accurate as a person would be all of the time. So talisman isn't exactly stronger because a lot of the power that goes into making a talisman, whether you make one yourself or someone else makes one for you, is going to go into keeping that talisman functional over a long period of time. Ideally, tens of dozens of years. That's tens of dozens. So a minimum of 120 would be the ideal of what you would want to try and make a talisman able to do. But if you're unskilled, you don't know what you're doing, you might only be able to get it to work for 10 years and you recharge the thing. That's fine. We all started out like that. The talisman's advantage is that it provides this continuously. You're not recasting. You may be recharging it, but you're not recasting it. You're not having to go out and do this over and over again and put all that time and energy out. Talismans are great, but even I forget this once in a while. And I got a pretty good memory for most of my tools, but even I go out the house without my Warhammer once in a while, my Mjolnir. So then attunements are the next thing. Attunements you cannot leave at home. I don't care how bad you are. I don't care how inept you believe you are. An attunement is not something you're going to leave. Now, I can't get into attunement craft in a single episode or a single live stream. That takes forever. But needless to say, to make an attunement, you have to already be very skilled with things like talisman creation, like spell work. You already have to have a good understanding of how attunements work. Helps to be attuned already to several different art forms. But attunements are a good method. Now, sadly, they're something you usually have to go to someone else for. But if you're skilled enough to make attunements, then you should make attunements and have them available to you for use. And make your own attunements. There's nothing that says you can't. If you've got the skill level to do it, okay? So that'd be the next thing. Attunements are weaker, stronger, better, worse than a talisman. I don't know how to quantify that, because a talisman's always active, whereas an attunement is active whenever you activate it. There's a command phrase, there's a word, there's something. A talisman, you need to wear it, and that's it, usually. I know some people design talismans you've got to activate daily, or there are certain ritual methods or traditional methods where after talisman's created, you have to do some form of the hokey pokey to get it to activate. That's fine. That's not bad. What you're looking at is then a talisman that works as another tool or amplifier would. That's fantastic. It's a good option when you need it, and then the difference between that and an attunement is non-existent, other than no one has ever left an attunement at home, ever. So with an attunement, it's always on you. You are never in a situation where you're like, damn, I forgot my attunements. But you will be in situations where you don't think to use them, where a talisman will already be active. So like for shielding and protection, cleansing, better health, luck. Attunements are great. Talismans, they win every time. So we start to realize that a lot of this is more about, when are you going to need this, what you're doing? When is it useful to you, before you start selecting what you're going to do. Are you going to make a talisman? Are you going to put the time and effort? That's the other thing for a talisman. Spellcasts tend to take less time than creating a single talisman. Just, it's how it is. A talisman takes longer to make. Even if it's just the raw materials being turned into the wearable object, it takes longer. So you got to weigh that in too. So we've hit attunements, we've hit talismans, we hit attunements like 3 times. I didn't hit them at all first, and then I started beating on them because they are useful. They're really good for situations that come up that you don't need something always active. That's why Reiki is the most popular attunement on Earth. What is the situation you will have come up that doesn't always happen? But when it does, you really want an attunement available. It's healing someone. It's healing someone else, or healing yourself. But you are, I don't know. Maybe you are accident prone. I don't know. I've seen a couple names I know pop into the chat here and there. I haven't seen anyone that accident prone that I would be like, you need to be having someone heal you 24/7. Just give up. It's over. I've met people like that. And to them, I recommend they don't go outside. Not really, but in a situation where this is something you're going to need, but you're not going to need it all the time, attunements are really great. And of course, the core, most chosen attunement in all the world is Reiki. And for good reason. It's very powerful. I use it myself. Fantastic art form. And then all other attunements kind of work the same way Reiki does. They're not always active. And other healing attunements work like Reiki. Let me rephrase that. Whoa. Before I dive into the deep end and get myself into trouble here, before Alethea shows up in a blast of fire, because her and I were discussing this on the nature of different healing methods. So Reiki, you are channeling an external power. You do not get involved with the Reiki directly. You are attuned. You channel it. You open it. You send it. You don't mix any of your own energy in there unless you want to hurt someone. Why are you doing Reiki then? But then the other forms of healing art forms tend to use another energy that is being directed, or in the case of an art form itself, like Qigong, where it's not an attunement, but it is an art form that's learned and then practiced, you very much will be using some of your own energy. You're going to draw in energy, you're going to condense it, you're going to move it, and then you're going to propel it for the healing that has to be done. So that is very different from Reiki, but in the sense that you cannot leave an attunement behind. All attunements are like Reiki. They're great, and a lot of healing attunements work very similar to Reiki, so they're very useful to you in that respect. So again, in case you missed it, if it's something you're going to need to do, and you're only going to need to do it once in a while, you're not going to need it active all the time, attunements are great. Attunements are basically mini spells with a trigger. I mean, come on. How awesome is that, right? Okay, so the last of them, gods, I hate this because on the one side, I've seen pacts do so many amazing things. I've seen pacts take people out of poverty and raise them to riches. I've seen pacts start lives, end lives, destroy lives accidentally. I've seen them bring love. I've seen them send love away. And I've seen them fail so badly because people ask for stuff that even the thing they're making a pact with is like, nah, boss, I'll try. And then that's where we get into pacts. So a pact is an agreement. And I tell people it's like a contract. I don't think I'm explaining it well enough. Let me make it clearer. It's like having sex with a spirit, with a being. It's that level of communion, just not sexual. Okay? You could pick up, spiritual STDs. Well, maybe not, but you could get yourself in more than you're ready for. Why? Because you can't just break that contract. You can't. You can't just be like, well, I'm done. Okay. Good luck. You can't just end a contract. You can't just step away. And neither can they, okay? If you have bound something to you, in a sense, through a pact, even if it agreed, we'll go with a god. So you make a pact with Odin. This is going to be good. I can build this in my head. Wait a second here. I can build this outcome in my head. So you make a pact with Odin for power. That's a good one. And then, as time goes on, you stop hailing Odin as much. And let's say it's one of your pact conditions. You've got to sing his praises. And you don't say them as much. You still meet the minimum requirements of the pact. You started out, you sang his praises 12, 15 times a day. You went to everyone and said about how great and amazing he was. And then it was once or twice a week. And now the pact said a minimum of once a month. And the more you did, the more he would favor you. You're down to once a month, and just barely, because you almost missed last time, but you managed to get it in because it was a leap day. Oh, yeah, Odin is going to follow that contract up to the moment he decides it's worth it to break it. When either side breaks a contract, there's a backlash. He might accept that and make you his next whack-a-mole to make up for it. Possible, likely. Or he'll maintain the contract and he'll make you powerful by adversity. There's a way to gain power, isn't it? Powerful by adversity. That's what you might get out of it. But he's following the contract. And then there's contracts that they can't hold to. This specific person who was an ex wants me, I want them to fall in love with me. Well, I got tough news for you. That's not going to happen. If they can manage it, it's a form of control. It's a form of manipulation. Wow, that cat scratch looks a lot worse on camera, doesn't it? But if they can do it, it's a form of domination. People are naturally resistant to domination. So that person, he or she, will break that control. They'll know who was the one that started it. And in that, it's going to go bad for you. It's going to go real bad, because now whatever love they felt, thanks to whatever that god or goddess was doing, you are going to get that brought back upon you. So, pacts are great for life-changing things. Pacts are great if you're already allied to something and you want to strengthen that alliance. Especially because then usually the terms of the pact are not so severe. But the more petty the need for the pact, or the less likely you are to hold to it, the worse it will go. So, I don't often recommend pacts, and when I do, I recommend them for important things. I recommend them for things that there are no better options for. And I more often than not, even when it comes to people who are like, well, I was thinking of making a pack on my own. Do you recommend this? My default answer is no. Maybe. What are you doing it for again? No. So with that, I guess the only thing I've missed tool-wise, divination methods, powders and oils. We'll call those consumable items, items that are consumed in the working. There's a lot of things I could cover in this. Consumable items are great for boosting other workings or for working on their own when the item is designed for that. Things like hotfoot powder are great for revenge, and oils or tinctures or powders or incenses that are designed to help with healing or promote wealth or things of that nature, fantastic. Having the right color candles, good stuff for ritual. That's that kind of tool. They're good for what they're good for. That kind of hits on everything I had planned to cover here, I think. I know I gave everyone 15 minutes to get ready. I was like, everyone get ready, 15 minutes, I'm going live. And then I jumped on. That's the way my life is. I start working when I get up, and I stop working usually about 20 minutes ago. So I want to thank you all for your time. Any questions that anyone has, post them under the video. Be one of my next videos on maybe. Maybe you'll have that question that inspires me, that brings something out of my soul, that makes me want to talk about it. Or maybe your question will be one that, is one I want to answer in text because I want it formulated. I want people to see it and quickly access it. Or maybe it'll be a question that's like, were you sure I don't need a pact for this? At which point my answer will probably be like, no, you don't need a pact for that. Didn't you listen to the first video? Before I do go, I think we got a couple people watching. I ask, anyone got any questions in the chat? There's like a 5-10 second 10-year delay, something like that on Facebook. What kind of delay are we getting? People, we getting like a 10-year delay on this now? We'll see if anyone answers. If not, I'll look like I'm talking to myself at the end here. I think I'm gonna look like I'm talking to myself at the end. I got a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I did my best impersonation of losing my mind. You should have seen back in the old days when we had to plug everything with virtual audio cables and run our own server. I did that impersonation every day. And Justin, he had the poor misfortune of watching me have to figure this out because he was the one who said, Charles, do this. Figure this out for me. How did that happen? And then I had to watch him try and figure it out when I'd forget. So, it won't be the first time you all have seen an impersonation of me losing my mind. I think that's it. Everybody, how should I end this? Should I end it the classic way? Yeah, we're going to end it the classic way. Awaken the night within. Too much?